and our plan was to birth without medication, of course, and to be at home about 95% of the birth. And so along the way, our midwife was really part of that plan, and she recognized that we did it, and she also was thrilled that we had our doula alongside of us because they've worked together before, so it was a seamless operation. We lived 2 minutes from the hospital, and so we knew that we could really get almost fully dilated and then make a quick drive over, and our midwife would be there. So throughout the pregnancy, our midwife and I and my husband would kind of check in and just make sure that we were on track, and the baby looked healthy, and she said, you know, Jessica, I have nothing to worry about with you. You're doing all the right things, you've got everything in line, you know what you want, and you're taking really good care of yourself, so there's pretty much nothing I can dictate to you. I remember the morning that I was due was August 10th, and I went in to go see her, and I said, you know, I just kind of have this sudden fear. I'm suddenly going from totally relaxed and chill to feeling anxious because my husband had gone to work that day and left me at home, and I thought, oh, this is a scary roller coaster ride, and here I am, here's the day. And she said, that is the most healthiest fear that you can have. If you were totally relaxed and thought nothing of it, that might be a problem. But this is your body's way of saying, get ready, we're going to do something fun, and it may be really hard, but it's going to be worthwhile. Well, about 8 days later, I still hadn't delivered, and she knew that the OBs in her facility were going to start knocking on my door about getting induced. And so she sat me down with my husband and said, I just need to kind of feel you out and see what your thoughts are at this point of being induced, because Monday will put you at 2 weeks past due, and that's when they really start getting antsy. And my stomach dropped, pardon the pun, but I wanted to throw up and I wanted to cry. And I said, Pamela, I can't have it in my conversation. I'm not going to get induced, and you need to keep those white coats at bay because I don't have any time for them. I don't trust them. And I didn't want to be on somebody's clock of Pitocin and all of that. So she said, okay, I understand. I'll keep them at bay. You just do your thing. So at 4 a.m. the next morning, I started to get what I thought felt like menstrual cramps, and by golly, I went into labor. So we labored at home until about 10 or 12 the next night, and I had, my contractions started to get progressively stronger and stronger, and we were timing them, and my husband and I were at home, and our doula was there, and she had dinner, went back home, and then came back later that night. So at midnight, I was fully dilated, probably close to fully dilated, and we made our short trip to the hospital, and I was in extreme pain at that point, and I was probably at 10s and 11s in terms of pain, and we thought that the baby would probably come the next hour. But at noon the next day, the baby still had not come, and I was not able to push. I had never got to that point. But my midwife was there, and the doula and my husband, and they basically just held vigil. My midwife was pushing on my back, and my doula was pushing on my back, and clearing the sweat out of my eyes and helping me through it. It turned out that the baby was in a combination of 3 of the worst possible positions, and we had to do an ultrasound around midday, and in came the OB wheeling her ultrasound machine, and I thought, oh no, this is not good. And so she took an ultrasound, and she said, well, here's the deal, let me do a drawing, and I probably blacked out the drawing that she did, but she said, you have less than a 1% chance of delivering this baby vaginally, so you really don't have any options. And I said, well, what are my other options? Can you manually go in and turn him and let that happen? And she said, I could. We'd give you an epidural to do it, and it would still hurt, and you would still have a baby that I couldn't touch, and I can't get in there in the right position. So I asked if we could do the inversion position where head down, butt up in the air, and they lower the bed, and I had to stay there for 3 contractions to see if the baby could come back out of the cervix, drop down, and then when I sat upright, then he would come down in a proper position. And I could not believe the amount of pain that I went through to do that, and I couldn't believe that I had to stay there for 3 contractions. But we did it, and I was committed to the process, and it had been 12 hours since we checked in, and there were no painkillers that had been given to me. I never asked for medicine, It didn't occur to me because that was in my birth plan. No medicine. So that's what happened. And I'm proud of that and I'm glad of that. And we still got to the position of the C-section is the safest thing for you to do at this point. And I'm getting chills thinking about it because that was a really, really hard piece of news to hear. And I couldn't believe, with all the work, with all the things that we had done right, you can't control everything. And I had my big girl cry, pulled up my socks, and said, well, we're going to make a decision and we're going to go forward. And I looked at my midwife and I looked at my doula and they said, we support you in whatever you want to do. They said, we don't see people try this hard, and we respect that you have put in 150% and you haven't had any complaints about it. So for you to make this decision at this point, we're behind you and we'll be there the whole way. And in came the anesthesiologist. But my midwife talked me through every single step of the way. And she said, this is what you can expect. They're going to wheel you to this place, and he's going to say this in your ear, and this is the person that's going to be standing next to you, and I'm going to be in the room the whole time. This is how this is going to feel, and this is what's going to happen. And she was dead on. She was absolutely right. And knowing that, even though we were going to a surgical process, that midwife was still there, and she was still able to assist in that matter. So as much as I'm pro-midwife, and I would do it all over again 100%, I have a respect for the partnership that the midwives have with the hospital, with the OBs, and those people that are trained and licensed in surgery. I get that. Because if it wasn't for that partnership, I would have been in a really bad situation. So if I were to do it again, I would definitely go for a VBAC at all possible. And I have the same exact attitude. But I appreciate and respect the work that all of those professionals put in together. So I would like to see that continue, but not be mandated if I wanted to do a midwife and not have an OB, but we'll see how legislation goes with that. So I had a very long and painful, fully dilated 12, 14 hours of labor, but I wouldn't do it any other way. And the fact is, at the end of that experience, I came out with the most incredible, beautiful, happy baby boy, and I would never want anything else. And so I don't live with regret. I live with positivity, and I'm grateful for that. And that's my birth story.